Okay, as we were doing the behavioral techniques in behavior therapy, and we have done till systematic desensitization. Now there is another technique which is known as principle of reciprocal inhibition. Another behavioral technique which is known as principle of reciprocal inhibition. There are two words into this name, reciprocal and inhibition. So how does this technique goes on? Reciprocal means that there are two mutually opposing forces exist at the same time. Two mutually opposing forces means what? One is relaxation and another process is to feel or to experience the anxiety, or you can say anxiety provoking scene. As we have talked about systematic desensitization, so the same things we're going to discuss, but the process is different. In principle of reciprocal inhibition, there is a presence of two mutually opposing forces. One force is relaxation, the another one is anxiety provoking situation. Now what is happening? It exists at the same time, but what happens? It inhibits the weaker force. Out of relaxation and anxiety provoking scene, the weaker force will be inhibit. Inhibit means that it will end up. It will not be experienced anymore by the client. So two mutual opposing forces are there and it will inhibit the weaker force. Now what happens in this technique? The client or the person is asked to experience both the things at the same time. Anxiety provoking imagination is there. He is imagining about any anxiety provoking situation. At the same time, the therapist also asks the client to relax. Now, eventually and gradually what happens that the client is able to relax his body and mind much more in a much stronger manner as compared to that anxiety provoking situation. So what happened? Gradually the anxiety decreases and relaxation process gets stronger. Getting the point? Out of two mutual opposing forces, what happens? The relaxation process gets stronger and stronger, and now the client is able to experience the anxiety provoking scene much more anxiety provoking scene in a very normal manner. Suppose as we have taken the example of a phobia of a cockroach, right? So now what is happening? The client is imagining a scene in which cockroach is there on his clothes, right? Now at the same time he is able to relax his body and mind and he doesn't get panicked. So what it is happening? It is inhibiting the anxiety. So in the last, the client is able to encounter the situation, the anxiety provoking situation, but with relaxation. Fine. So this is principle of reciprocal inhibition. Just remember the two names. Reciprocal means two mutually opposing forces, and inhibition means the weaker force gets stopped, it gets inhibited, it gets covered, right? Now let's talk about the last behavioral technique, which is known as modeling. It is the procedure wherein the client learns to behave in a certain way observing a role model or as you all know, we have done this kind of technique earlier also. So in modeling, what is happening? The client is learns to behave in a certain manner by observing his role model. And sometimes who is his role model in the therapy session? The therapist himself or herself. So he just take the therapist as his role model and he start imitating or observing his behavior and try to behave in the same manner. So therapist is also behaving in a very positive and optimistic manner. So gradually the client also start learning, talking in the same manner as the therapist is doing. Vicarious learning is also there. It is a part of modeling only, you can say. What is vicarious learning? Learning by observing others is used, and through a process of rewarding small changes in the behavior, the client gradually learns to acquire the behavior of the model. Now, whenever you're going to explain about modeling, please keep in your mind that you have to explain about vicarious learning also. What is this? This learning is similar to modeling. In this also, the client is observing or imitating the behavior of his role model. But what is the difference? In this, if a therapist is, noticing some changes, positive changes into client's behavior, then what he is doing? He is rewarding the client. So in this, what is happening? We are rewarding small changes in the behavior, and gradually he learns to acquire the behavior of the role model. Fine. So this is all about the behavioral techniques. We have done quite a lot about negative reinforcement, about aversive conditioning, about positive reinforcement, then token economy, then after that differential reinforcement, and under this only one method was there. Remember, positively reinforcing the wanted behavior and ignoring the unwanted behavior. Into this, we have given the example of a girl who sulks and cries whenever she wants to go for cinema. Remember, right? After that, what we have done? Systematic desensitization. Then principle of reciprocal inhibition we have done today. And last but not the least, modeling. And under this modeling, the vicarious learning we're going to explain too. Fine. Let us start now with another type of therapy, which is known as cognitive therapy. Now, what is the key feature or the main characteristic of cognitive therapies? It always tries to locate the cause of any psychological distress or any abnormality where in irrational thoughts and beliefs. What I'm trying to say that the cognitive therapy is always, try to locate the cause of any disorder, any abnormal behavior, any distress where in irrational thoughts and beliefs. So the basic thing is what? To treat the irrational thoughts and beliefs. Now there is a particular name, RET, which stands for Rational Emotive Therapy. A very important, very famous therapy under the cognitive therapy. RET, full form is Rational Emotive Therapy. Now what is it all about? Let us discuss. The central thesis of this therapy, means the basis or the main important point of this therapy is what? Irrational beliefs mediate between the antecedent events and their consequences. Now children, you must be understanding all these terms. What are antecedent processes? What are the consequences, as we have discussed already in behavior therapy, right? So what this therapy is saying, that the irrational beliefs mediate. That means, first of all, what are the things? Antecedent events are there, right? Then comes beliefs. And in the last, what comes? Consequences. So how you'll get to remember this? In ABC format. It's written ABC format. How you're going to remember? A stands for antecedent events, B stands for beliefs, and C stands for consequences. So in this manner, it is a kind of analysis which is done. So just to remember also, it is a very good technique, ABC. Now I'm going to explain how does it proceed. When we talk about ABC in rational emotive therapy, I'm trying to say that irrational beliefs mediate. As you can see, beliefs is in between A and C. Antecedent events क्या होते हैं? Which cause psychological distress or anxiety, right? And The client is also interviewed to find the irrational beliefs which are distorting the present reality. After the therapist get to know about the antecedent events, what he will do? He will try to find out the irrational beliefs. Now, client is holding many irrational beliefs. Suppose he says that everyone must love me, right? You will ask a very simple question, ma'am, what is the example of irrational belief? So let's take this example. If someone says that everyone, each and every person must love me, is it possible? Just imagine on your side, if you say that each and every person in the world, or each and every person who is, coming in contact with you, they all must love you or like you. Is it possible, children? Is it possible or not? No, it is not possible. If someone say that it is possible, so he is having a irrational belief, because it is really not possible. How can we expect everyone to have to keep a very good and positive to keep a very positive belief or thinking or feeling about ourselves? No, we cannot force anyone. So this is a irrational belief which many people hold. Now, one should be loved by everybody all the time. This is another example. How is it possible? All the time? Are all the circumstances and situations same in our life? Are all days are same? No. So these are certain irrational beliefs that many people hold, and because of these irrational beliefs, they are getting through many kind of abnormalities and many kind of distress. We're going to discuss. Now, what comes? The last one, remember C. C stands for consequences. अब irrational belief जो उस client ने बना रखी है, उस patient ने बना रखी है, so what will be the consequences? Consequences will be in the form of negative emotions and behavior. The person start having negative emotions. The person will start behaving in a negative and abnormal manner. Or you can say maladaptation or malbehavior will be there. So consequences will always be in negative. If a person is having irrational belief, the consequences will result in negative manner. So how this process is going on, have you understood? Rational emotive therapy, RET. What is the central thesis? That irrational beliefs mediate between the antecedent events and their consequences. How you're going to remember? In ABC format. A stands for antecedent events. Antecedent events we have already discussed. These are the events which causes distress or anxiety. As we have talked about, where we talk about this in behavior technique, right? Antecedent behavior kya hoga? Suppose a young person is going for alcohol. I have given you the example, you remember? So what will be the antecedent condition? That young person wants to avoid annual exam. So annual exam here is what? Anxiety provoking situation. Anxiety provoking situation means the antecedent events, right? Why a person is consuming alcohol? Because of antecedent event. And why this antecedent event? Because this event is causing anxiety into that person, right? Try to understand anything with some example so that it will get easier and clear. Fine. Now what is happening? Irrational beliefs are assessed through questionnaires and interviews. A therapist prepare a questionnaire, interview in which lots of questions are there, right? And he asks those questions to the client. The client has to answer. And through his answers, on the basis of his answers, the therapist gets an idea that how much irrationality is there in the client's thought and behavior. How much irrationality is there in the behavior of the client. Fine. Now, the important thing is that irrational beliefs are refuted by the therapist through a process of non-directive questioning. Very important thing, just if you can underline, it's on page number 99. First column, cognitive therapy, last fourth line, fourth to fifth line. The irrational beliefs are refuted by the therapist through a process of non-directive questioning. The nature of questioning is gentle, without probing or being directive. See, it is very much related to providing unconditional positive regard. If a client is saying that everyone should love me, so in the form of questionnaire and in the form of an interview, the therapist will try to make the client understand in a very non-directive manner. अगर straight away therapist बोल देगा कि नहीं ये तो बहुत गलत belief है, this is wrong, this is completely wrong, it is not possible, this is not possible at all. So what will happen? The client will not be able to understand the thing because he is not performing or he is not behaving in a normal manner. He may leave the session. He may take the therapist, as his enemy. So he will not disclose the things. So we have to be very positive. We have to make a very trustful relationship with the client. So in order to make it, the therapist will not refute the things. He will just ask the questions in non-directive manner. There are various types of questions through which the client will, in the last, start admitting, yes, it is not possible. How is it possible? Possible because individual differences are there. Maybe certain factors are operating, right? If I'm, expecting too much from others, so I have to also give the same in return, right? So the things will be made understand by the therapist to the client in a very non-directive, in a very trustful, in a very gentle manner, without being directive or dominating, right? The gradually, what happened, the client is able to change the irrational beliefs by making a change in her or his philosophy about life. This is what the kind of values, the kind of thinking, the kind of perception which we are holding for the life, it all tells about the philosophy of life, right? And it is developed on the basis of many factors, on the basis of your family background, on the basis of your own personality, on the basis of your interaction with different kind of people, on the basis of reading content which you are going through, right? So many things are there. So now the client is ready to change his irrational belief or his wrong philosophy towards the life. Fine. Now under this cognitive therapy one, we have done RET. Fine. Another important one, it is given by Aaron Beck, page number 99, first column. Second type of therapy given by psychologist Aaron Beck. It is also very important and it also comes under cognitive therapy. Two therapies are there, so please remember RET and this one we're going to discuss. Then again one more therapy is there. So another cognitive therapy is given by Aaron Beck. What is it all about? His theory of psychological distress characterized by anxiety or depression. He states that childhood experiences provided by the family and society develop core schemas or systems which include beliefs and action patterns in the individual. Now, what this therapy is saying, Aaron Beck is saying that psychological distress in the form of what? Anxiety and depression. If a client is suffering from anxiety and depression, and this is the form of his psychological distress. There are various forms of distress. Somebody show it in the form of anxiety. Somebody show it in the form of depression. Somebody show in the form of phobias and irrational fears. Lot of things are there in which distress could be revealed. Fine. So Aaron Beck is saying that psychological distress mainly is expressed in the form of anxiety and depression. And from where these things have come? Because of his childhood experiences. And when we talk about childhood experiences, who are the socializing agents? The family, the parents, the siblings, and society. Yes, these two major factors, family and society, is providing various kinds of childhood experiences, and it is developing a core schemas. A word is given in black bold letter. It means the systems. Now, what are the systems? See, we have a particular kind of thinking or belief about certain members, certain objects, about certain things and events. So these are the systems we are, storing somewhere in our unconsciousness or in consciousness, and these are known as schemas. And on the basis of these schemas, we are developing our beliefs also, we are developing our behavior also. And if the experiences are very bitter, very negative, so the same beliefs and behavior will also be negative or will be abnormal. Fine. So now they are elaborating what kind of experiences. If we talk about family members, suppose a child is neglected by the parents, right? A child is there who hasn't got the attention of his parents too much. He hasn't, got the love. He hasn't got the things which he desired at that stage. So in a form, he has been neglected by his parents. So what core schema he will develop? That I'm not wanted because my parents doesn't need me, my parents doesn't give me time, so I'm a person who is not needed. Fine. So I'm not wanted. This is a negative kind of belief about herself or himself. Now what happened? The same child during his course of life has encountered an experience in his school. In his school also, some teachers or any teacher has just ridiculed the child in front of many people publicly, right? And he is not getting the right kind of treatment from that person. So again, what that core schema will get? It will get strengthened. I'm not wanted, right? So it will get strengthened that my parents also doesn't want me, my teachers also, and my friends also. So gradually in every field of life, he is getting the same negative treatment. So this core schema, I'm not wanted, is getting strengthened day by day. Fine. Negative thoughts are persistent, irrational thoughts such as nobody loves me, I'm ugly, I'm stupid, I will not succeed. So all these are what? Negative automatic thoughts. These are negative automatic thoughts which are developing due to some negative experiences. And actually those experiences are not negative, but the child is taking it in a negative manner. This is his personality. Such negative thoughts are characterized by cognitive distortions. Cognitive distortions means when there is a problem in the thinking process, in the mental processes. And when we talk about mental processes or thinking processes, all things come all together, be it related to your perception, be it related to your memory, right? Remembering, problem solving, decision making. So all these things will be get affected in a negative manner due to these distortions. And all these patterns of thoughts are called what? Dysfunctional cognitive structures. And they lead to errors of cognition about the social reality. Now you got the thing that these are the errors of cognition about the social reality. In reality, in real life situation, the things are not like that. But the child is suffering again and again the same thing, the same kind of treatment from everyone. So what he will develop? He will develop the same thing that I am not wanted. But it is not actually in the reality. There are many other factors also. But the child is not able to understand the things. That is why his behavior is maladaptive. Fine. Repeated occurrence of these thoughts lead to the development of feelings of what? Anxiety and depression. Now, under this theory, you're going to write anxiety and depression because according to Aaron Beck, what he said, that psychological distress is revealed in the form of anxiety and depression. Now therapist uses questioning. Again, the same thing, which is gentle, non-threatening disputation of the client's beliefs and thought. In this also, therapist is going through the process of questioning, which is very gentle and not directive. Examples of such question would be, why should everyone love you? A very simple question asked by the therapist to the client, that why should everyone love you, right? The client will come up with many answers. So these type of questions are asked. The question make the client think in a direction opposite to that of the negative automatic thoughts, whereby she or he gains insight into the nature of new things. That means what? Gradually and slowly, what the client able to acquire, he may start thinking in the opposite direction. The present direction is always in a negative one, but now he start thinking that yes, the therapist is right, the question is very right, so he may start developing the thinking process, which is now going into a positive direction, right? So the aim of the therapy is to achieve the cognitive restructuring, which in turn reduces anxiety and depression. Now he may start reducing the anxiety and depression by reducing the psychological distress. And how is it possible? To reduce that cognitive distortions. And he may start with restructuring it, all the beliefs, all the core schemas. Now he is building, or now he is structuring it again from a new perspective, from a new point of view, from a very optimistic point of view towards life. And the result is, the consequences, you know, ending with all kind of
Ma'am, please unmute yourself. Yes, ma'am.